This episode of the Accounting Insiders podcast is brought to you in part by Xero. Xero is a powerful cloud accounting software that improves efficiencies across your practice. With all client data stored on a single unified ledger, you and your clients can easily access and collaborate on the same set of books. Xero's advisor tools and automation solutions reduce time-consuming manual tasks and put data entry on autopilot. Work faster and more efficiently than ever before with Xero. Visit xero.com/accounting insiders to learn more. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Accounting Insiders podcast. My name is Gary DeHart. I am the host of the Accounting Insiders podcast and the publisher, managing partner of Insightful Accountant. And my guest today is Dan, or Daniel. He has it Daniel. I've never called you Daniel, but Daniel Hood, who is the editor-in-chief. Is that the right, or editorial director for Accounting Today?
Yep, editor-in-chief, editor, whatever.
Whatever, just call me, right?
Chief cook and bottle washer,
Right,
laundry and
just
morale
call me.
officer.
Yeah. And so Dan and I worked together a long time ago when I was on Accounting Today, and so we've known each other a very long time. And but somehow he's kept more hair on his head than I have.
It's
And
going though. It's going though. I was
yes,
belatedly following the trend.
it happens. So so what we're going to talk about today is kind of Accounting Today does an event, and so I'm having conversations with people who are running these events or heavily involved in the events that are impacting the profession. So I just wanted to have Dan on just to share with us, what the event's about, who should go to it, speaker tracks, et cetera. So we'll dive into that in just a minute. But before we do, Dan, just give a little of your background, and and we'll go from there.
All right. So I'm, as you say, I'm editor-in-chief of Accounting Today. I've been with Accounting Today since 1996. Was managing editor for a long time, and now editor-in-chief for the last decade or so. So covered the accounting profession for a long time. Know more about accounting than someone who isn't an accountant should. But just excited to be following what's going on. It's a very exciting time to be covering this profession and to be following what's going on because there's so many changes. It's an exciting time. Also terrifying, but mostly exciting.
Right. Well, it's nonstop, right? At least you got something to write about every day.
Exactly. Never a dull moment.
Right. So you've been you said 96. I didn't realize that. I didn't realize you've been there since
It's a
1996.
long time.
That is a very long time. So
Yep.
what were you doing prior to that?
Prior to that, I worked for, the company that owned Accounting Today owned a number of other accounting publications.
Yeah.
I had worked on some of those other accounting publications, but before that, I worked for the Wall Street Journal's European edition in Belgium. It was mostly in production and design there.
Oh, okay. I don't think I ever heard that part. Now, you've written a couple of books, right?
I have written five novels and one guidebook to New York City.
Oh, I didn't five.
We've been out of touch for a long time, Gary.
I know, it's been a very long time.
All the books were written in the 90s, so they've been out of print for a little bit.
Okay.
When I say a little bit, I mean like 25 years.
Long time.
But you can still find them on Amazon, but they're all used, chewed up, dog-eared copies.
Right.
And the guidebook came out around 2004.
Okay. Is it time to update the guidebook, or you gonna let
It
somebody else
was
do that?
literally seconds after it was published, it was time to update it. I brought a copy into the office, fresh, brand new copy out of the wrapping to show people in the office and be like, hey, remember that? Because I was asking everybody, hey, what should we put in this guidebook to New York? And literally the first thing someone did, they all were like, oh, this is cool. They're grabbing it, they're opening it, the guy's opening it. Oh, this is so cool. That closed. Oh, that's about to close. Oh, that's now a laundromat. So it was New York changes very quickly. So
Yeah,
about half the
really.
stuff is still up to date. The other half is all completely out of date.
Yeah, so I imagine if you're not a team of people, it is not worth doing a guidebook in print, right? I mean, that would just be
Exactly.
crazy. Now, before we dive in, speaking of print, so what is going on with Accounting Today these days? What's because when I was there, it was print. We were kicking off online stuff. We had an event. What's that look like? You're still publishing, right?
Yes, we are a multimedia, sprawling multimedia giant. We have still in print publication. It's monthly.
Yep.
I think when you were first here, it was bi-weekly, but we've gone to monthly. That goes out to about 30 to 40,000 firm leaders all across the country on a monthly basis. But our main outlet really is the website, accountingtoday.com. We've got 5 or 6 daily newsletters on different topics for accountants. We're regularly updated with the news, whatever's happening. We try to get covered as quickly as we can, but also a lot of more featurey articles and contributed content and that sort of thing. We've got a podcast. We're going to be talking about an event. We've got another event. Actually, I realized we were talking about this. We're going to be talking about our event that's coming up in May. We've got another one in November on private equity that we just started last year. And we have do tons of webinars. We do kind of do it all.
And you're
Any way
doing,
you can learn about accounting, we will tell you all about it.
yes. How much are you leveraging video?
Actually, video is one of the few areas where we don't do a lot. We're starting to
Okay.
do more, mainly because LinkedIn really likes video, which I didn't realize for the longest time. But we don't do a ton of video. That's the one area where we are looking to expand. We have done it in the past, and it wasn't getting much traction, but that was
Yeah.
10 years ago or so. So we'll probably be starting to do more of that in the future.
Yeah, I think LinkedIn and YouTube, right, loves the shorts, and we're trying to figure that out too because I mean, we're a very small company, and so trying to figure out the right way to serve the market, the way the market wants to be served, but
Right.
equally important, the way technology wants us to serve it, right? Because Google has a big say in how the market gets to consume content. And
Yes.
trying to figure that out is a constant challenge, right? And still
Well,
doing your day job.
and as soon as you figure it out, they change it. So
Absolutely. Yeah. I
that's
heard actually a very interesting podcast the other day. It was a couple of guys who kind of keep up with what's going on in the whole tech world. And they were talking about Google usually does an update in March. And they were kind of prognosticating what the update would be. And they were suggesting that, over the past year, it's been real heavy on AI generated content. And I think we see it in our search results right now. You get
true.
here's the answer they want to give you. Then
Right.
here's the search results on page 2. Um, these guys were saying that they think that's going to change and that's going to pivot back to where Google actually values more content like what we produce and you
Right.
produce versus AI driven content. So it is the Wild West. But events. So what's
Yes.
the name of the event?
All right. So the event we're going to be talking about today is our Affirm Growth Forum.
The Firm Growth Forum, not to be confused with the Growth and
Growth and
Profitability
Profitability
Summit,
Conference,
the
the
Growth Flow
classic.
from
That's
many
the
years ago.
classic.
Right.
Though it actually does cover some of the same topics and has some of the same focus. But yeah, no, it's slightly different. Doesn't have as good
Yes.
a GoPro was a great
Right.
abbreviation,
Right.
but we were never able to make that quite fly as much as we have. We have had much more success with this one. I'm not sure why.
And it's Firm Growth Forum, right?
Yep.
And that's an Accounting Today production, or is it come under more of the Arizona?
I know it's well, I mean, that's a good question. I don't know how you would describe that. Right, the Horizons conference team obviously gives us support and does all the logistics and handles all the running of the show, and we work
Yep.
with them on the agenda. So we're sort of play a big role in setting the agenda, picking speakers, deciding what to talk about, deciding who to talk about,
Yep.
that sort of thing. But then all the logistics, they're the experts in that, so we sort of rely on them for making sure that we have rooms to speak in and microphones to speak into and lunch and dinner and that kind of thing.
That's important. People like to eat, right?
Gotta
And
eat, gotta eat.
and so it's what's the date on that?
That is May 20th to 21st, coming up soon.
Yeah, that's not
It's at the
far.
Mission Bay Resort in San Diego.
Okay. That's the one that's like right outside the airport, right? Isn't that the Mission Bay Resort?
It's not, well, there is, it's not the one, I'm thinking of, there's a hotel right by the airport. It's not that one, but it's not too far. I mean, I don't think it's more than 5 minute drive. It's on the same body of water. It's on the same bay.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's not, let me be clear, it's not like planes are flying overhead at all times. It's actually,
Yeah.
it's really nice. We do a lot of stuff outside there. So it's very tasty.
Yeah, and this is the what year? Third year?
This is the third year.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, I've not made it to it. And so if you were doing the elevator pitch to an attendee, and that's primarily who our reader would be, or listener would be,
Awesome.
what's the quick elevator pitch as to why should I go?
Gotcha. Well, it's sort of, as the name implies, it's the Firm Growth Forum. And the notion is that we discovered that as firms grow, you reach a point where growth is no longer simply a matter of adding new clients or just expanding your uh, how much you're billing, it changes your firm, or your firm needs to change as you grow. You reach a point where you need to be starting to do things differently on all sorts of levels. You need to be professionalizing your back office. You need to have more professional IT function, a more professional HR function, a more professional marketing and business development function. You need to be thinking differently about how you pick what services you offer to which clients. You need to be thinking differently about your clients and managing your client roster in a very different, much more proactive way. And so what we just thought about was, with all those things going into growth, it's like I said, it's not just a matter of, hey, I'll find another client and I'll bill them more. It's a
Right.
question of you have to change your firm to support that larger revenue model, or that larger book of business, and you need to change your firm to accommodate all those things and to be able to operate at that higher level. And so we said, why don't we put together a conference that helps firms that want to make that transition? There are lots and lots of great small firms that don't need to grow, don't need to change, may not want to. They're going to be hugely successful for a long time. Accounting profession's in great shape. But if you want to make that transition from a small firm to a growing and larger firm, then you need to think about all these different areas of change. And we wanted to put together sort of one event where you could come and sort of learn a lot about all those different things. You could learn about, like I said, things about what kind of service offerings do you need to have if you're planning on being a larger firm, right? What kind of adjacencies do you need to explore? What kind of services do you need to have to be more of a one-stop shop, to be more attractive to maybe a larger client base? What kind of recruiting and retention practices do you need to think about? What kind of offshoring do you need to be considering? All those different things that go into managing that larger firm. We wanted to be able to be talking about them all in one place. So we're not, there's very little in the way of technical tracks. In fact, there's usually none at this. It's not, you're not going to be learning about the latest tax laws or the latest audit techniques or stuff like that. Though that was all
Okay.
great stuff. The focus here really is for people who are running firms and want to take them to the next level. And it's pretty, I won't call it size agnostic, obviously, right? Because we are expecting that you're going to be firms that are going to be wanting to moving to the next level. But that next level can vary. We've had firms as small as $1 million be there, but they're ones that really wanted to grow and change and prepare. I would say sort of the sweet spot might be anywhere from 5 to as much as 30 million. Because
Okay.
that's where that change really starts to become evident as you get bigger and bigger, and say, all right, this is the point where somewhere in there is where you start to say, wow, I need an HR person, or wow, I need a bigger and better business development team or set of practices, or I need to build a pipeline there, or I need to have IT that's better managed because I can't just do it in my spare time, kind of thing. So it's in
Right.
that rough area that we see firms starting to really need to think about all these different areas of change. And I should just real quick just say, they don't have to think about them all at once, right? What happens, generally speaking, is as you're growing, one area pops up and you're like, oh, I should really do this. And then 6 months later, you discover that, yeah, you got to grow. You're growing so much that you need to figure out this other area. And our notion is sort of to prepare everybody for all the things that are going to come at you.
Yeah, and so they can have that holistic approach to the full firm, right? And
Right.
I sat in on this training course, I guess it was last week, and I've always said people, process, and technology, and they added, left. Are you still there?
Yep. Sorry.
Oh, there we go. You went dark. I didn't know if you
I
just
meant to
left me.
unmute myself. I meant to mute myself because I was coughing. And then instead of unmuting myself, I muted myself
Okay.
and I turned myself off, and then
Right,
that
he
synchronized. Sorry about
disappeared.
that. I'm back.
Ah, no worries, no worries. And so people, process, and technology, but then one other key thing that's left out of that is execution. And
Mhm.
do you guys get into the execution side of it as far as like the speakers, or is that something that they're going to kind of help a firm manager, firm owner kind of wrap their head around what execution looks like?
Yes. And then depending on execution in every area, right? Execution is crucial, right? Change
Yeah,
management is a big deal. So, and it will vary. It will vary from area to area. The speakers are different every year. The main priority is to get people aware of the things they need to be thinking about, right? And what good execution would look like. In which areas do we dive deeply into the specifics of execution in building a better prospect pipeline? Some years
right.
we may cover that in great detail, and some years we may not. A little bit depends on who our speakers are and that sort of thing for the individual year. But you should come away with a notion of what you're going to need to do and what success will look like, right? Like what you would need to do to achieve success in any one of those areas. How deep we get into the specifics of execution on them will, like I said, vary from
Right.
speaker to speaker.
Yeah, that makes sense. Speaking of speakers, do you have like a speaker list? Some key people. I don't know how many you have, so maybe you can list them all. Or
All 4,000 of them. We have,
yeah,
yeah, we do have most of our agenda is all lined up at the moment. I'll give you just some of the highlights. We got Joe Woodard
yeah,
coming. We got Gail Crosley. We got Randy Crabtree, Richard Kopelman from Aprios coming. Ellen Choi, Denise LeDuc-Creming from the California Society of CPAs, Doug Lewis, Val Steed, Heather Satterley, Seth Feinberg. And then there's a lot of other people got a lot of people coming from firms. One of the things we've
okay,
discovered is that some of the best people to teach accounting firms how to grow are firms that have succeeded. That they're maybe one level above, and come
right,
back and share what's going on. So we have a lot of firms doing that. One of the things we're most excited about this, and we've had some great success with this in the past, is bringing in literally just panels of firms that are growing really strongly. We put out a list every year. We just put it out a couple of weeks ago of the fastest growing firms on an annual basis, and a lot of those we're inviting a lot of them to come and speak because we're like, well, you've
okay,
succeeded, you've done it, right? You're growing really quick. How are you doing it? What is succeeding there for you? And what's interesting is by size and by geography and by focus, it can be very different depending on who you are and where you are and what your model is. The pathways to growth are actually there are more of them than you might think, and
hmm,
so we're always excited to have these sort of big panels of 3 and 4 and 5 firms that are growing in different ways and have them share literally their strategies and best practices for growing. So we
so
haven't
they get
actually
in.
that sorry
Okay, no, you go
we
ahead.
haven't named a lot of those because the list just came out last week. So we're still
Right,
reaching out to line up who's going to be on those panels, but we're hoping to get a lot of them.
yeah. Do they get as far as going into their tech stack and say, hey, here's what our tools look like?
Sometimes we don't generally with them. It's more about growth strategies
Hmm.
than tech specifics.
Yeah,
Someone always asks that question, but usually
right,
by that time it's the end of the thing. And when you talk to some of these firms, so many firms have tech stacks that are 15, 20, 25, 30, 40 products deep.
right,
Because one of the things, right, one of the tactics of growth that we're seeing a lot, right, is specialization, and with that specialization comes specialization of tools. So they'll say,
mm,
yeah, I got 30 tools, 10 of them are specific to my niche. And you'll never have heard of them because they're all about, car dealerships, they're all about light manufacturing and inventory management, that kind of stuff. And they're names that none of us, they're not the big broad names that we all think about. They're
right.
the super niche apps that are built for this specific industry or this specific service line.
Okay. It's so how about events and socials? You said you do a lot outdoors. What does that look? And
I
and
probably,
ultimately, we're going to give everybody the URL to to where they can go and see all the speakers and the tracks and everything. But
well,
um, people love to network at events, right? Half the value, if not more, of the value. Nothing against the content,
oh yeah,
but a
yeah.
lot of the value comes from that networking, right?
Right. And one of the nice things about this space is we kind of own this area of the hotel. It's all us. There's not a lot of people wandering through, causing confusion. Everyone around you, if you see them there, they're an accountant or they're in the space. They're working. They're part of the conference. There's a lot of networking time available. Like I said, we're all tight in one spot. I shouldn't say tight. It's not crammed in there. Right?
Oh
It's
wow,
very
this is
spacious.
great.
It's
Hey,
very
nice to see you
spacious.
again.
We're holding it in Elevator Bay 3 of the Mission Bay Resort. No, it's a very comfortable place, and like I said, there's a lot of outdoor space. We're right on the side of this whole set of patio areas around the pool, but there's a lot of networking time built in there. There's karaoke event. There's going to be an award ceremony for all the fastest growing firms. We're going to recognize those. There's a lot of cocktail receptions built in. So it's the goal is, as you say, right? A lot of it is giving everybody who's coming a chance to talk to themselves. So this is, I'm sure you know this as well as I do. Nobody accountants don't accountants. The first person they want to listen to is another accountant, right? That's their
Yes.
they as much as they may respect and want to listen to you. If there's another accounting, they'd rather listen to the accountant. They'd rather hear it from a CPA. And so we're always excited to have all these firms come together to, like I said, to share their best practices. And so we give them plenty of time to meet up, to talk, to interact with each other and find out what's going on.
Yeah. So is it a mega event? Is it a more intimate personal event, mid-size?
I would call it mid-sized. Yeah. When we started, it was a little smaller. We're aiming to grow it, but we're not aiming to grow it too much. I think we're looking to be about 300 and somewhere between 330 and 350 people this year.
Yeah.
But I don't think we want to grow much beyond that because, as you say, there's an intimate feel to the smaller events, right? Gives people a chance to talk to each other. You're not wandering around among 5,000 people, trying to find, just trying to find an event room. So no, it's relatively smallish, and we intend to keep it that way. For the foreseeable future. I mean, it's kind of thing where if it got too big, we would probably end up splitting it and doing maybe a half on the East Coast and half on the West Coast. But like I said, three somewhere between 300 and 350 is the
Okay.
goal.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a nice size event. It's you get to see your friends, meet new people, and learn some things. The there was something I thought about when you were saying that, and that was, oh, your other event that you mentioned
Yes.
before. It's not tied to this directly, but you said it's more on PE,
Yeah,
private
it's
equity.
it's the private equity summit. This is when we
Okay.
just started last year. And I'm so wrapped up in firm growth forum because we say it's happening relatively soon that
Yep.
I didn't even mention the other one. But that's in Chicago with just a 2-day conference. We did that first time last year. And the reason we did it was we looked around and realized that every conference we go to, there's a session on PE, and everyone comes out of those sessions with more questions than answers, right? Just because it's a huge topic and there's a lot going on there, and no one quite knows what it's all about. So we said, well, why isn't anybody doing a conference on that? And then we realized, I guess we should do the conference on it. So we did. And it was a huge success,
Mm.
way beyond our expectations. And there was just an enormous appetite to come together on the part of both PE firms who wanted to come and meet as many accounting firms as they can, but also a lot of accounting firms who were, like I said, just trying to figure out what this is all about, what it means for them, and whether it's right for them. And it covers primarily it's focused on PE, but it also covers some of the alternatives to PE. Maybe you should look at an ESOP. Maybe you want to look at staying independent. Maybe you want to look at finding some other source of capital, et cetera. So it's primarily focused on PE, but it's agnostic.
Okay.
It's not pushing PE on you. So it's a great chance to meet accounting firms, but also PE firms that are looking to work with accounting firms. That's happening in Chicago in November. I want to say around November 20th.
Okay. And is that something that's done in joint with some of the other products that the parent company owns, like financial planning or banking, or
No, so far it's
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 not? Okay.
independent. Yeah.
Okay.
Uh,
Seems
we
like there
that
might
may
be some good
expand.
synergy there, right?
Yeah, and we may expand that at the moment, but it's interesting. The PE focus on accounting is so narrow and so specific that the people who are doing it aren't. We haven't found the connections with the rest of the Horizon publications. So
I got you.
we may at some point as more and
Right.
more PE firms come into to look at accounting. I'm sure we'll get some connections there, but.
Okay. And we're not going to go into a list of sponsors, but there are sponsors at your event. And
All right.
is it more like here's your dedicated exhibit hall, or is it a sponsored on the outside while we're doing presentation in the middle? What does that look like?
There is an exhibit hall. It's going to be pretty big. We're going to have a lot of networking in there, so you get plenty of chances to explore what's going on there. There's also we're sort of excited about this because one of those things where when you have exhibitors speaking, you're always curious about, right? Is this a sales pitch? Is this useful? Is
Yep.
this meaningful? And we're constantly working on ways to help sponsors get their message out, right? Because we don't have people who we don't think are meaningful and useful to our audience there. But at the same time, we don't want them out there making sales pitches. And we're working on a bunch of different models. We've got case studies that are being, we're working with them to present it to make sure that it's a useful, valuable thing for the audience, right? That it's here's a problem that accounting firm is facing. Here's how we solved it. So there's in addition to the booths, in addition to opportunities to talk to them, there's going to be events like that. The sort of case studies. There's going to be some lunches and breakfast where you can meet up with them and learn more about specific products and that sort of thing. But we're always sort of careful of making sure that we're not locking people in a room to be subject to
Right.
a sales pitch. But at the
Buy
same time,
this.
right, exactly. But at the same time, right, as I said, we pick these people, to be there because we think what they're offering is useful and valuable, and at least something that the audience might want to learn more about. So.
Sure. And the reality is, I mean, that's where the audience could get some of their best information about what is coming, or what's available right now. Because the reality is, if you're running a firm, or if you're elbow deep in the business, you're not spending hours a day looking to see what the next new technology is that can help you run your practice more efficiently, or name out the 52 other things that you can do with technology. So and I say that in that, if you do go to the event or any event and you see that a sponsor speaking, don't automatically say, "Well, I'm not going to that," because the
Right.
sponsors can bring a tremendous amount of value. I mean, both for the event itself, but from a speaking perspective, because they're on the cutting edge of what's coming next.
Right.
We won't even
And
get
they
into
talk,
AI, right? I
yeah,
mean,
and they talk to a ton of accounting firms, right? They're working with a ton of
yep,
accounting firms, so they see what's happening at 50, 100, 1,000 other accounting firms, and so they bring that perspective, which is always useful.
right. And they're all unique, just like your firm, right? And so, but anything that we missed? So it was the 20th through the 21st of, is that right? 21st of
Yep.
May,
Yep.
Mission Bay
Mission Bay
Resort,
Resort,
San
San Diego.
Diego.
There will be karaoke.
Probably pretty nice
Um,
there in May. Dan is a big karaoke guy, so you'll find
they
Dan leading karaoke.
absolutely, absolutely. But I will make space for anybody who wants to participate. And it's also important to note that you do not have to sing. Those who point and laugh are also as valuable to the experience as those who sing. That's what I'm going to say. That's the clowns on stage, clowns like me on stage, like an audience. And if you're laughing at me, that's fine. I don't care as long as you're paying attention to me. So
As long as you're
that's
paying attention,
that's
that's what
that's the
matters.
karaoke model.
Well, great. The URL, where do people find it?
Just go to accountingtoday.com. There's an events
Yeah,
tab right at the top. And Firm Growth Forum is there. Private Equity Summit is there as well. So it's all the details you need right there. Accountingtoday.com.
great. All right, Dan, appreciate it. It was great talking to you, and tell the people there who I worked with years ago, tell them all I said hello, and maybe we'll bump into you at a show pretty soon.
Will do. It's good seeing you again, man.
All right,
Good
Dan,
to see you
enjoyed
out of
it.
the basement.
Yes. All right, talk soon.